Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching this. Welcome back to the Since I Was Young podcast for all things Heart of Midlothian. Joining you this week is myself, Ewan, and Alan. As always, we do hope you're all good and well. Now, as you can see, I have had, of course, a bit of technical difficulty, shall we say. To be fair, we've not had one for quite a while, so we were due one at some point, um, but that will all be sorted out next week. So just in case you're a bit OCD when it comes to YouTube, etc., so just bear that in mind for the rest of the episode as we record. So yes, of course, we're going to be going over I want to say highlights, but we'll go through the shite show that was the game on Sunday against Rangers, where we were bestowed a 3-1 defeat at Tynecastle, which we will talk about a wee bit as we go on. Also, we will also bring some the great news as well, as most of you will heard as well in terms of the shirt kit, the provider as well. And we'll look a wee bit ahead to the game next up for Heart of Midlothian when we travel to bottom of the league, St Johnstone, away from home. So that is going to be your episode for you this afternoon, as per. And as always, guys, just to get the necessities out the way, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube or the Spotify for the Since I Was Young podcast, please think about subscribing. And if you want to visit us, there you are, at any of our socials as well, please feel free to do so. All will be in the description in the box below. So please have a go at those. So, Alan, I guess before we get into the nitty-gritty, we can start off with something a bit more positive. One of my favourite kit manufacturers is returning to Tynecastle next season. Of course, we are talking about Hummel, as described as from Andrew McKinley as another record-breaking deal, where we embark on a 5-year deal, I believe it is, which will be rather exciting, especially for you and myself, Alan, as we are somewhat football shirt enthusiasts, shall we say, which means that we spend money on football shirts rather than actual things to get through life. But yeah, Alan, I don't know about yourself. I'm going to naturally assume that you were, but I was delighted when I heard the news that we were returning to Hummel. I'll be very honest. Umbro has been okay. Um, for me, honestly, it's been more with the home shirts for the last few years. It's been more of a copy and paste job or close to it in my opinion. Obviously, they have brought out some smashing kits, just to refer to, obviously the 150th anniversary kit, the Inter Milan type style away kit as well. The pink shirt, a personal favourite of mine. But yeah, I'm sure you'll agree that it'll be nice to have a fresh, like a paint, shall we say, on the kit said the going ahead for next season.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny when I saw it was Hummel and like all this sort of teasers and stuff that they'd put out. I immediately thought of you because I know you're just a massive Hummel fanboy. So I was, I
Love
knew,
it.
I knew that when this came up that we would talk about it, that you'd be delighted to talk about it. So
Oh,
yeah,
the chevrons are close to my heart, my man. Absolutely.
absolutely. That they just look quite classy, and I think
Yeah.
it's interesting because we'd spoken about it, and I did a little bit of research that then proved to be completely pointless, because I looked up football clubs and national teams that have Hummel this current season, and I
Mm,
like the Coventry kit. If you've not looked it up, you should because it's classy and it's lovely, and it's just got the chevrons on the shoulders rather than down the sides, which I really
mm.
liked. And I would love to see that in maroon next season. But then Andrew McKinley spoke about it being or I think I can't remember if it was from our side or from Hummel's side, but they mentioned we're an elite partner, which means that we
Mm.
get bespoke kits. So looking at templates of other clubs proved to be a complete waste of time.
Oh,
But it'll be interesting to see what they come up with. Like I loved the Hummel kits of old. You know me, and I like a simple kit. I'm a simple man. I like a simple kit, and I think next season yeah, it's nice. I know people spoke about the quality of Hummel kits before, and I think John mentioned it previously when we've spoken about it. I think maybe off the podcast. Can't remember if we spoke about it last time he was on or not. But yeah, the quality is maybe leaves a little bit to be desired, but that was again years ago. So hopefully they've improved on that and they can deliver some absolute beauties because, like you said, we are very partial to purchasing football shirts, and the cupboard that's behind me would be testament to that because it's full of them. But yeah, we'll see what happens, and I'll look forward to spending more of my hard earned money. Maybe that's not correct, just earned money. Um, on whatever they come out with next season. But yeah, I think 5 years is a big thing as well. And it's if it's being a record breaking deal, then there's got to be a decent fee involved.
Absolutely, Alan. As you just said there, like sort of hard earned cash. I'm literally going to have to cancel my pension. Like seriously, man. Like I'm a sucker for any Hummel shirt that looks so classy. But it's the away kits that I'm more kind of curious for because I know I've seen some shirts that can be absolutely wild in terms
Yeah.
of their designs as well. So yeah, absolutely looking forward to that. And if any of you guys watching as well, if you're excited for the Hummel Kirks shirts, please feel free to comment as well. Now we can move on to the disappointment from the weekend as well, Alan. So we'll get through this as fast as you possibly can. So yeah, the team as well. When you sent me the lineup, especially, I was quite surprised in the way that Critchley had set up more in a positive way, like, because we really look to be going on the front foot and really looking to get at Rangers as well. So obviously we played what was, I guess, a 4-4-2, but then you could argue it was a 4-3-1-2 or a 4-3-3 even as well, just the way that the creature had this set up as well. So obviously you had Craig Gordon in goal, the back four of Ed Penrice, the Cart, the Dingwender, and the Forrester. Uh, let's go with your middle three of Spittle, Benny, and George Grant, and your forward three of Kabangu, Lawrence Shankland, and James Wilson. So, as I said, I was very happy with the starting lineup, especially with the front three of Kamangu, Shankland, and the Wilson. I think, you know, obviously, like putting aside the result at the end of the weekend, it looks, I would like to see how that kind of works out. They all individually bring their own like sort of part to the game as well. Some had them better at than the others as well. Obviously with Shankland, like, most likely going to be leaving at the end of the season. It will be interesting to see what this kind of attacking line can bring him towards the end of the season.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I think I kind of pointed it out on the last episode that I did where I spoke about the Rangers game and spoke about Cammy Devlin being probably out due to his
Mm.
concussion from the last game. So the diamond midfield was interesting, but we finished against St Mirren in that shape and system. And again, I'd mentioned that last week about I felt like maybe that's what Critchley would do. Just because obviously Cammy Devlin's been such a big part of
Mm.
his Hearts team of recent weeks. So he was a loss. But yeah, the front three when I saw the lineup, it was interesting to think, right, where are they all going to play? You would imagine Shankland will be that sort of deeper, almost like the number 10 kind of Liam Boyce
Yeah.
type striker, with Kabangu doing his usual and running off into space, and Wilson making a nuisance of himself as well. I had an interesting conversation with my brother earlier on actually about James Wilson, where we both kind of spoke about him and said, what bracket do you put him in right now? Do you put him in the starter bracket or do you put him in as an impact player bracket? Because it's quite interesting because we've seen him do both. We've seen him come off the bench when there needs to be a change, and then we've seen him start games. And I like James Wilson. I think there's definitely a very, very interesting player in there, and I think there's a player in there that if we manage him properly could make us quite a lot of money.
Yeah.
But what his role is at the moment is one that's still kind of not up in the air because I think he's capable of both being a starter but also doing that impact role when he comes on. But it is one of those. I was surprised to see him, but I think a lot of the decisions around the squad selection were due to obviously Cammy being out. The one selection that I was again a little bit worried about, and you probably know what I'm going to say, was Forrester at right back. I like him. I don't think he's a bad player, but I want to see more of Gerald Taylor. And I think Gerald Taylor played against Rangers at Tynecastle at the start of the season and was one of his best games before he got injured. So there's that kind of bracket in there as well. But there was some interesting team selections. But like you, when I saw it, I thought, do you know what, Critchley's going for this, and he spoke about, again, it was after the game. He spoke about the need to sort of get after them, and I think he even mentioned it before the game started, where he was talking about it, and he kind of said, we're at home, we want to play how we want to play, and I think he mentioned, I can't remember his quote off the top of my head, but it was early in his reign when he spoke about, this is Tynecastle, this is how you come to us, and this is how we play, sort of thing. And it's refreshing to see that regardless of the opposition, he was willing to sort of stick to what finished the game well against St Mirren. Like, Rangers are
Yep.
fragile, we all know that, but I felt like it was the right thing to do to try and get after them a little bit.
Yeah, no, no, Alan, I absolutely like agree. Just to go back to your point with the Forester, I think you know it, it's a difficult one because obviously you know still quite young as well, and you obviously want to build up his confidence as well, and you know Gerard Taylor, I probably would agree with you. I probably would have preferred to seen him in that right back role, just to have a bit more of the presence about him, I guess, and it's not to say that Forrester had a bad game, but you know, just to put a bit more of like a physical, like sort of the presence in there against the Rangers front line, and that could have set us up a wee bit better. But like the game's gone now as well. But like I mean, um, in terms of what you're saying about what Ed actually said, yeah, I 100% agree. I think we've not really had that Tynecastle fortress-esque kind of atmosphere for quite a while now, and I think I'm pretty sure you and me mentioned it before the actual game. We When you go away from home, it's a totally different story. Sometimes you do have to adapt your game to, you know, whomever you're playing as well, But I think, especially for Tynecastle as well, if we want to make this a place again for teams to fear and who hate coming here, I absolutely agree with what he said as well. But obviously, it didn't start out too well, Alan. But so we'll go to the first goal. I'm gonna before we go through the actual goal as well. This hasn't made me think, anything bad about James the cart just before we get off to it. I think he's had a really solid start to his the career at Tynecastle. I think Jane, I know it sounds quite was it de blase, but I think he was just really unlucky, like genuinely for both goals. But with the goal that to kick things off for the Rangers, the ball comes in, Gordon does well to tip it away, and you can maybe just put it down to he was at the wrong place at the wrong time, and it's just said the ricocheted off them unfortunately, so I don't, whatever. I mean, again, yeah, you could say, oh, could Ed the Craig Gordon have done better? Well, like, there's maybe an argument for that, but again, you'd be asking them to not do his job, if that makes sense. So
Yeah,
I don't think you can really complain about the first goal.
no, definitely not. I think the only thing I could maybe say is communication needs to be a bit better. I think
Yeah.
Penrice is behind McCart, and there's no Rangers player anywhere near any of them. So it almost looked as if nobody got a touch on it. It probably would have went out for a throw in on the other side. But
Mm.
yeah, maybe listen. Even if Penrice had given him a shout, which I'm sure he probably did, it was there wasn't a lot of time to react, and Gordon's come out and tipped it, which again, like you say, is his job as a goalkeeper. But yeah, the only sort of thing I would suggest is communication could be a bit better. But in that split second moment, I don't know if McCart can sort out his feet to, do it for anything else to happen. To be
Yeah,
honest, I think it was kind of destined to go in as soon as it hit him, which is annoying. Because in the first 20 minutes, like they started okay, but I felt like we kind of got into the game and then they scored a goal, and that kind of took us out of it again. But yeah, in terms of the goal itself and in terms of Jamie McCart's afternoon that he had, yeah, it's just unfortunate. It's just unfortunate, sadly.
absolutely, Alan. I mean, even after the first goal went in, I was speaking to my brother and my dad throughout the game, and genuinely, I felt as if even with going a goal down relatively early, I still think we were 100% in that game. I never felt. I mean, I'm going to say it throughout the whole game. I never felt any sort of Rangers threat coming our way. To quote my the brother, we should have absolutely murdered them. Like genuinely, they never offered any real attacking threat. Again, most of their sort of the runs of play came from the counter attacks. Because we had so many people up the park as well. And I mean, for the first half, even when we got um like through the first half, I still felt that we were at a better team. We had more control over the game. I think it's maybe the first time I've seen that we've had more shots on goal than the Rangers for any game in a long time. So even when we got into when we got in at halftime, I mean, did you personally feel that we still had enough the quality there to maybe win the game?
Yeah, yeah, I did. I felt like, Kabangu had three big chances in the first half, and if he scores any of them, it's maybe a different game depending on when they went in.
Yeah,
But yeah, like it's one of those. It goes back to the system I was talking about and the way that we played it. That diamond in midfield, you had Spittle and Grant that were a bit more central than I maybe would have liked them to be, but that allowed Rangers to kind of play through us a little bit. Um, I will say, obviously, we created a lot of chances, but it felt like although we created a lot of chances, Rangers did as well, and theirs were almost easier to create than ours were, if that
yeah,
makes sense. But I don't know if that's just because
yeah,
they've got better quality in certain areas. But we played good football and we passed it forward well, but it was almost like it was a bit more laboured. Whereas Rangers, it was like one pass and they were through. But again, that's just due how we were set up. But like you at halftime, I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, do you know what? We're still in this. Okay, we're 1-0 down. It was a disappointing own goal, but I kind of felt, do you know what, if we can get after them, because I think in the first maybe 15, 20 minutes, we did show them a bit too much respect and kind of sat off them a little bit. Whereas I would have liked us to kind of go after them, considering how fragile they could have been. But yeah, listen, at halftime, it was weird, and I posted it online. It was weird to suggest that at halftime, at 1-0 down against Rangers, I was actually relatively happy about that.
yep.
Not for once thinking that, oh, I'm happy because we're not further behind. I'm happy because I can see there's signs and there's intent there. And I think Critchley kind of spoke about that after the game as well. But yeah, from at halftime, it's like I say, it's strange to say, but I sort of thought this game is still very much in the open. Like it was kind of end to end as the game went on. And yeah, that was kind of the thought that I had. Like as long as we could get the next goal or create the next big opportunity to get a goal,
Mm.
then that would kind of stand us in good stead for the second half.
Absolutely, and we didn't have to wait long after we resumed in the second half, only 5 minutes, I believe, as well, where our new Austrian centre back scored a beautiful header right into the right hand corner. Um, I thought it was a really good header, nicely guided as well in to the back, and you thought from there, genuinely, I thought that we were going to crack on, because again. I didn't I do agree with what you say as well. I think we almost had to work ourselves harder to create those opportunities as well in the front of goal. Um, but I thought it was at that moment, I thought it was a thoroughly deserved a equaliser. But obviously we'll be talking about calmly what happened next after that. But yeah, no, it was a good goal, and it'll put um Steinwender into good stead to get some more every time we have a corner.
Yeah, I mean he's 6'3", so I did enjoy the fact that Rangers just left absolutely nobody on him. I thought that was quite funny. Like he was just literally standing by himself. Yeah, it's nice. It was his home debut. I thought defensively he looked pretty good, and to have him and Jamie McCart, who we've seen score from a header already in Hearts colours this season since he's joined us as well, it's nice to have that bit of a threat. And again, I think it was the Heart Standard that did an interview and they spoke to him and he kind of said, it was nice to be in that position because a lot of the other Rangers sort of defenders were focusing on Jamie McCart. So
Mhm.
they chose to ignore a 6'3" Austrian centre back. And yeah, it was a good header. I'll take it every day of the week. I do like him. I think he's obviously it's very early to say it, but I like the look of him, and I think he could be quite an interesting player for us over the next little while. It got us back in the
Absolutely.
game, and we deserved to be back in the game at that point. I
Yeah.
thought, even like I said, I forgot to mention it, but even in the first half after they scored, I thought our response to going behind was brilliant. And then when you come out in the second half and right at the start of it, you do that, it got everybody kind of back on side again. And it was like, right, like you say, right, let's go and do more. Let's go and get after them. Let's go and have a goal because we clearly had the ability to do it.
Mhm. And I'm not even going to talk about the second goal that they scored because, like, that's like that happened. But, you know, where does the SFA and the refereeing get off in terms of consistency? That's all we ask for. That's all
Yep.
that any football fan for any team in this league asks for. And I know I'm going to sound incredibly bitter, but you know, one example that was used was the penalty that was given to Rangers against Queen's Park, which was as soft as you like. Again, like I've seen the penalties given like that, and it wasn't even the fact that like James Wilson hasn't got a lot of the meat on him, and he is relatively more easier to like to manhandle, let's say. But there was two hands in the bloody back,
Yep.
and he goes down,
Yep.
and yet
Yep.
was it the blue nosed bloody Ed Beaton doesn't even call it to the VAR,
I know.
and
I know.
and I'm going to sound so salty here, but this is why you know Scottish football in general is not where it's meant to actually be in terms of its the quality because it's not consistent enough,
Nope.
and
Yeah.
the fact as well, it just makes it more it just makes it look more worse at the fact that it's against an old firm team, but it keeps happening. I'm not saying
Mm-hmm.
there's any sort of a crazy conspiracy about it, but the more it happens, the more it's going to look like that.
Yeah, massively. I'm still fuming about it. The game
Ah,
was yesterday at time of recording, and I'm still fuming about it. I feel like you say, James Wilson is the sort of player that looks like he could get blown over by a gust
ah,
of wind. But you then remember the goal or the contribution that he made in the Kabangu chance against St Mirren, where he goes up for a header against Alex Gogic and he wins it, and Alex Gogic is an absolute brute.
aye.
So he does have some physical ability about him.
Yeah,
He's not a
no, no,
little
of
weird,
course.
but like it's a blatant push in the back, and the ball was going in his direction. Yeah, it baffles me. And then obviously they break up at the end, they score. We're not going to talk about
Aye.
that, but like you say, for me, listen, for John Beaton to not see it, I'll hold my hands up and go, okay, maybe he's not seen it. That's fine. But VAR, what are we paying? And I'm not going to go on a big rant about VAR
No,
because I've done
no,
it before and I could do it every week at this point. But what are we paying for? Like, I know they say that VAR checks everything at the time that it happens. And I get
mm,
that. Maybe they did look at it and go, do you know what? We think you're right. Just play on. Let this play out. Like let this Rangers move play out, and then we'll see after that. then Rangers score, and maybe that puts them in a position to go, well, hang on a minute, if we rule out a goal to give a penalty, that's a big story.
Yeah,
Maybe if we're
it
going to
is,
do
but
that. But I know maybe that's the only defense I have of them. Like if the ball had obviously if the penalty claim had been made and then I don't know a Hearts player intercepts the ball, then kicks it out into the stand. Maybe the VAR team go right. Let's go back and look at that again. Let's check that again. So maybe because they're following the game, they don't have a chance to check it again. That's again the only defense I can give them, and even then, it's a very very shoddy defense because
uh,
it's a clear and obvious mistake that
obvious.
John Beaton
Aye,
has missed that penalty claim. He's not seen it. Like that's the only observation I can give. He's not seen it because surely if he sees that, it's a penalty. Like you say consistency, and it is. It's and I haven't seen it. I haven't watched the highlights yet, but I hear Hibs had a pretty shocking referee in their game, and I don't like to sort of talk too much
yeah,
about
I
Hibs
saw
because
that as well. Aye,
I never really do like to kind of talk about Hibs and give them any airtime, but it highlights the inconsistency. And you're right, the Queen's Park penalty was a very soft one. We've had soft penalties given against us this season.
of course, yeah.
Could the James Wilson one have been soft potentially? But it's a penalty nonetheless. Like it's a push in the back, it's a
Yeah.
penalty. Rangers then obviously go up the other end and score, as I say. And we kind of ran out of steam at that point. And I don't know. The thing that I like about Neil Critchley is we know he doesn't like VAR. He said very early on he's not a fan of VAR. But after the game, he didn't talk about the referee. He didn't talk about
Yeah.
VAR. He didn't talk about the penalty.
But
And I'm thinking,
you could
inside,
see
surely.
that you could see that he wanted to though. You could
Yeah,
see
but
that he was raving inside.
I know, but that's the thing. And like you kind of look at it and go, do you know what? Let's take the positives out of the game rather than talk about
Aye.
VAR because although we lost the game 3-1, and I'm kind of glazing over the last goal because it
Aye,
was just Jamie
yeah,
McCart trying to do his job and defend, and it just again unfortunate. But you can tell that Critchley was happy with our performance, and that's where his focus should be. But John Beaton, yeah, I don't know why I'm trying to defend him. I don't know why I'm trying to give him an excuse because we've seen it many, many times with that particular referee as well. And I'm not a big fan of
yeah,
him, but
aye.
he's very much a fan of the blue side of Glasgow. And again, you talked about conspiracies, etc. I'm not going to dive into it, but
No, of course not. But
it's a known fact that this referee is a Rangers supporter. So why does he continue to get Rangers games? Like that for me is the only point that I want to put out there. But
yeah,
overall, just to kind of wrap up on the game from my point of view, I thought we
yeah,
actually played really well. Um,
yeah.
and
No,
it's
I agree.
like my brother was at the game yesterday and he messaged me after it, just basically saying, how the hell is that finished 3-1? Like, that's not a 3-1 game.
No,
But it comes down to missed opportunities from our side. And that's the one thing, you can talk about the John Beaton penalty and say that would have given us a route back into the game had we scored it, or had we been given it and then scored it, because we would have been
mm.
2-1 up and, heads would have been up and we maybe would have been flying a bit. But the flip side of that is we could have got it and missed it. So
Mm.
there's two ways of
Very
looking at it.
true. Yeah.
I'm not going to blame John Beaton exclusively for the fact that we lost, but he did have a big part to play in the momentum of the game, shall we say?
Absolutely. I mean, I might have to change the title of this podcast then, but no,
No,
like you know
keep
what I
it.
mean. It's just like, but no, like I mean, as you said, every referee when they go into the referee big leagues, they do get asked what team they support as well, and it's if I was going to go personally into a game that involved hearts. Granted, you have to be as unbiased as you possibly can be, but there's always going to be the odd we sort of tackle. I just play on it, like
Yeah,
it's fine. You know what I mean? That like
yeah,
everybody's was it human. I absolutely understand that, but you know it's a recurring theme that keeps happening, and I'm gonna stop it there because, as you said, otherwise we'll just open up a whole the kind of worms on this. But
yeah.
yes, yeah,
The
sorry, go
main
on.
point, no, I was just going to say the main point for me, and it's not, again, not giving John Beaton an excuse because I think he's a terrible referee and I think he had a terrible game on the
Right.
day, but the people in his ear should have told him to go to the monitor at least
Yeah.
to look at it again. So I don't know who the referees were on VAR. It was maybe Stevie Wonder and maybe somebody else. But yeah,
Mm,
for
mm,
nobody
mm,
to even say, right, do you know what? I know Rangers have just scored, but go and look at this because we think you might have made a mistake. Even if he goes across to
mm.
the monitor and goes, no, still a Rangers goal, no Hearts penalty, then you can go, okay,
Aye.
it's annoying, whatever. But at least he's had a chance to look at it again. That for
Yeah,
me is the issue. But yeah, as I say, John Beaton always has a habit of making himself the story, and I think he did that again. Although Critchley did very well to take away from that and say, you know what, we actually are quite happy with the performance and the way that we played, because we've not played like that against Rangers for a very long time. So
agreed.
losing 3-1, like my brother said, is it doesn't feel like that. It's weird to take away more positives than negatives after a 3-1 loss.
I understand you, man, and I do agree. But it is an interesting point as well, and we would love to hear you all as well. Like on the point that if a referee does support a particular club that he's involved in with the league, should they actually referee those games? It'll be an interesting point to hear from you all. And now, with that horrible result out of the way, we can look ahead to the next game this weekend. That is going to be taking place in Perth as we face bottom of the league, St Johnstone. Um, it's a bit of a tough one, this one, Ali, because I slightly feared this more than I did the Rangers game for some strange reason. I don't know why. I think it's just because because we're going to be coming off the back of a defeat. It's obviously seen us drop down to either I think it's ninth now in the league. Obviously, it is still very tight, but with Johnston now starting to pluck up a wee bit of form as well. It just kind of makes you a bit cautious, should I say. But what's your thoughts going into this weekend's game against St Johnstone for yet another midday bloody game? Like I don't understand that either.
No, I know. I think it's funny. Like I said it before the game against Dundee that I was a bit nervous about it, and then we turned up and
Mm.
absolutely rattled them. So I'm gonna try and tempt fate again and say I'm nervous about a trip to Perth to play St Johnstone. They have picked up a little bit of form at home. They've won their last three at home, although two of them were against Motherwell, one in the cup and one in the league. And Motherwell are in a bit of free fall at the moment. And I think their
Mm.
other win was against Hamilton in the cup. So kind of take that as a with a pinch of salt sort of vibes. But yeah, it's listen. St Johnston are kind of adrift at the bottom of the table, looking pretty. I'm not going to say certain to go down, but I would be if I was a betting man. I would certainly be betting that they probably will at this point.
Mhm.
It's the sort of game that we should be turning up and putting in a performance like we saw against Dundee. I'm not saying we're going to win 6-0, although I would absolutely love it if we did. We need to just take the chances because we'll get chances like we did against Rangers, but the problem against Rangers was we didn't take them. So yeah, I'm as confident, and I've said this so many times on this. I'm as confident as I'm going to allow myself to be. But for purposes of trying to tempt fate, I'm going to say that I'm nervous, and no doubt we'll turn up and batter them 6-0 now.
I'd like to hear that, mate. I like to hear that. But I mean, I still think we're probably going to go there and get a result. It's just always the thing with Hearts, once we've started to build up a bit of the momentum, and then after one
Yeah,
result, which was, and then they have to play against Rangers, it will literally just go all downhill from here. But I still think I still think we're gonna bring back 3 points. However, it will go down. I have no idea, but hopefully we can bring back the 3 points and then just slowly start to climb up the table again as well. Even with that being said, I believe we're only 7 or 8 points adrift of Aberdeen in third place. So there's
yeah,
literally 6 teams that can all potentially claim that third spot, which means it's
yeah.
going to be incredibly tight throughout the latter ends of the season. But again, we would love to hear all your thoughts on everything that we've talked about throughout this episode. So, as always, thank you very much from myself and Alan. It's greatly appreciated for you tuning in on whatever platform you are watching or listening to. And again, if you want to check those links out for the Spotify and the YouTube, please check those out and all our socials as well. Please feel free to give us a like as well. It'll always be greatly appreciated for new subs as well. So, from myself and Alan, for all the Jambos making their way up to Perth at the weekend, we do hope you have a good one and hopefully not too yeah, cold as well. And we will both see you in the next one. You all take care. Bye for now.